Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we are back at it again with a vengeance. This is going to be part 2 of our Ravnica Allegiance. He's not looking at me. Ravnica.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Allegiance.
Palooza.
Thank you.
I didn't realize you were giving me a cue. I was laughing at the with a vengeance.
I don't know. It just felt right. So
It
if
gives
you
like AC/DC voice, like oh,
if you didn't listen to part A of episode 250, that's going to be all of the monocolored cards, the colorless cards, the lands that we've discussed. And this one's going to be dedicated to multicolor cards because we have more of those than all the other cards combined from all the other colors and everything like that. So definitely a lot to talk about. So we won't really delay too much. Just in case you didn't listen to the last episode, we take a look at a lot of the competitively tilted focused cards, talk about a lot of rares, mythic rares, things like that, and try to really decide if it's something that could have a boost to a current existing archetype or create one on its own. Talk about the merits of it, sideboard stuff, things like that. That's all really you need to know to get into this episode. Next episode, we'll kind of return to a normal sort of format. We'll have a community segment and a competitive segment, potentially a question of the week or what have you. So let's just jump right into it. And these are in alphabetical order. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to bounce between a bunch of different colors.
Yeah, I thought about breaking it up by guild, but just like it's just easier to go through the spoiler in order. So
correct. So I don't know who left off.
Oh, that's fine. We'll just sort of sit back and you can absorb me doing the first one.
Fair enough.
So you know what? Don't absorb me. That's weird. I don't want it. Absorb is a blue white for an instant counter target spell. You gain 3 life. This is a sweet reprint from Invasion, which had a whole cycle of these.
Yes.
Sadly, we're not getting Undermine or
we didn't get Undermine
or Suffocating Blast, which is bad. But Absorb is a sweet one, and it's kind of scary actually because while there's a plethora of 3-mana counters, and it'll be interesting to see if this beats out some of the other ones. Comparing this to like being able to Surveil 1, for example, is kind of interesting. But I think like if the Azorius deck just wants to try and get to Teferi at the highest life total possible, then Absorb is a good one.
Yeah. I think like if you're a deck that can play this or Sinister Sabotage, I think most of the time you are going to be leaning towards Absorb, just for the sheer fact that while like Surveilling is very powerful, it's very powerful in a control deck, and I will not discount that at all. But being able to like just gain Tacit Life has been a huge thorn in a lot of aggressive decks' side. Like things like Revitalize being played in Jeskai control and like. Just being at 26 or something life is definitely a detriment to those sort of decks. Even in the control mirror, because you have Jeskai decks that want to like double kicked Fight with Fire you out.
Yeah, that's true.
And they have the hardest time potentially getting to be able to do that if you just are above 20, above your starting life total.
I mean, if you get to counter a spell and then like the gaining 3 life also negates like a lightning strike. It's just a pure 2-for-1 in that sense. So yeah, I agree. It's good. It's definitely revitalizing is that's 2 mana, right?
Yes.
So that on 2, this on 3, settle on 4, Teferi on 5. I quit.
It's there are definitely some very strong things you can do, and just blue white at this point in time.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go into a red or a black or a green as a third color. Like you could just play a straight up Azorius deck and really have a really competitive deck, in my opinion. But the question is why would you do that when you can so easily reach into those colors with the current mana bases we have? But Absorber's good. Absorb will see a lot of play. I hope you had play sets already from Invasion, you said?
Yeah,
from Invasion. If not, well, then you don't have the cool Absorb. You can get this guy who is like hacking the spell coming at him.
Who's like recreating the Dark Side of the Moon album cover with the Azorius Guild logo.
That's what it feels like. I just feel like he's like, I'm in, and getting 3 life.
All right, press play on Wizard of the Oz. Wizard of the Oz.
Wizard of the Oz.
I combined the Wizard of Oz
and
with
the Dark Side of the Moon
and Blizzard of Oz. All right, we did it. Yeah, Absorb's good. Next up, an even better card.
Yeah,
Bedevil.
I'm kind of sad that we didn't really get like a set of these of like the YYX sort of spells.
Yeah.
But I don't know what all of them could really be necessarily. Like, what's your Gruul one? What does that look like? How is it separate from Bedevil? But yeah, Bedevil we have as being a near perfect like Magic card in my opinion. It's black, black, red for an instant, and it says destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. And that's all it says. And it's super powerful, and much like Hero's Downfall, is probably going to be fairly warping to the format. I think this is one of the reasons why you play black red in standard. It's probably why you are like a Golgari player potentially looking at splashing red for this card, and it's just good. It's good like Absorb.
And this is a card we should mention for arena purposes too. In best one formats, this is the removal spell you want because it deals with a lot of troublesome permanents that playing more narrow removal can sort of get you trapped on. So
yeah,
I expect to see this a lot as well.
100%. Like it's just good. That's all you need to know about it. It's good. It's the reason why you play Rakdos.
I agree. Next one we can talk about quickly. I don't know how good it is. I know that the art is horrific, and I hate every second of it. Is Biomancer's Familiar. It's a green and a blue for a 2/2 creature mutant, and oh god, that melty boy like has so many hands.
I mean, like that's good. Hey, we already have established that 2 hands are better than 1.
Yeah, but
he's got like 4. That's better than 2.
But does he have 4? It looks like he has 5 appendages.
like
that's not even good.
Like he's a hand himself.
He's a Starmie.
I think you're right.
Yeah, he just goes. Ah!
Okay, well 3 is still better than 2.
Yeah, that's fair. So it's a 2/2. It says activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. It can't reduce it to below 0, and it doesn't reduce color mana. And it can also says tap the next time a target creature adapts. This turn, it adapts as though it didn't have a +1/+1 counter. So it allows creatures to adapt a second time or a third time, however you want to do this. And we've seen the ability on this creature be powerful because it's training grounds. Yes. Now, we saw it be the most powerful in degenerative Eldrazi decks. And I don't think Bant Eldrazi is coming back because of this card. But if there's a deck that is trying to use a lot of activated abilities, trying to use Adapt a couple times, this is an interesting card for that, and it's pretty cheap to play. So I don't know if it has a place in Standard, but I want to at least mention it just because Training Grounds was powerful enough to see play even in Modern, so this effect is something that we should at least pay attention to.
Yeah, and you never know what's coming around the bend. You never know what we'll see next.
Thanks, CCR.
Lots of activated abilities exist within Magic, so you never can really you don't want to forget about this card. Is all I'm trying to say.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And Morgan just put his fist up in the air for some reason, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
but he is free.
Don't forget about Biomancer's Familiar. You really won't. It'll haunt your dreams.
Where did you get that coat? Nice scarf, though, I guess.
Why do you have a handkerchief tied around your leg or your ankle?
I like the next card a lot.
Is it Cinderbites?
No, it's Captive Audience. How dare you?
Captive Audience?
How dare you, sir?
All right. If you like it so much, you talk about it.
All right, fair enough. Captive Audience is an enchantment. It costs 5 generic red-black. It enters the battlefield. You give it to an opponent. It's like, this is yours now. And it says at the beginning of your upkeep, choose one that hasn't been chosen. This is a fun line of we've seen on a couple of enchantments, and I like them using this. We have Liliana's Contract. Was that the one? No. What was it? Liliana's...
I can't remember. I know you're talking. Demonic Pact.
Demonic Pact. That's the one, yeah. So it says, your life total becomes 4. You discard your hand. Each opponent creates 5/2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Yeah, so have you not heard any of the buzz about this card?
No.
This is a finisher. This is a true control finisher.
Yeah.
I think when you look at
disagree with that.
When you look at like Rakdos or Grixis, right? That you have access like Nicol Bolas. Sometimes you want a finisher it's a little harder to interact with, and this is that. Each one of these abilities is fairly devastating. Outside of maybe discard your hand, depending on what the thing is, and it may not be main deckable. Like aggro decks may not care about this very much. But this is a sweet, like, even in big mid-range mirrors, like this is a sweet mirror breaker in my opinion, where this comes down and just takes over a game. Your opponent is going to lose to this card. And it's super powerful. I love the art. I love the flavor of it. I also want to point out, I don't know how you do it, but this is the card I want to put into playoff emergency powers.
Okay, going deep, are we?
Okay, so like you give them 7 cards, and you're like, okay, now discard your hand or be dead.
Yeah,
It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Like this is the card I want to put into playoff emergency powers at least once, and
You might have to. You might have just do it in Type 4 and like convince Keller to put both those in.
I think that's easy. I could do that.
But okay. I agree. It does sometimes feel like that Rakdos gets these big enchantments that don't find a home. So
Possibly, but I think maybe it doesn't happen, but I think this is an interesting finisher that you don't have to do very much. Like once you've cast it, like it's gonna end the game.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're gonna have a lot of 10 power worth of zombies. They're not gonna have a hand, and they're gonna be at 4.
fair enough.
So,
All right. Next up, I believe we do have Cindervines.
That is correct.
All right. So Cindervines is red-green for an enchantment. It says whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Cindervines deals 1 damage to that player. It also has an activated ability of 1 generic sacrifice Cindervines, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Cindervines deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. I really like this card. I'm a big fan of this card. I really feel like this could be something you see in Modern Burn. As a replacement to the Destructive Revelry. Obviously, having an activated ability is a bit of a downside, but potentially being able to generate a lot of damage from this card by itself is pretty appealing. It even has some implications in the mirror, right? Because you can use it to kill. Probably better on the play than
Reveler,
the draw.
yeah.
You can use it to kill Reveler. Also, it pings them every time they try to cast a spell.
So it's like the opposite of boarding in the Core Firewater.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's the best card in the mirror, but again, implications. It has a lot of good matchups for things that you commonly would encounter in Modern.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's a little bit weird, I think, for Modern Burn, just because this is where you said Destructive Revelry goes, and the games where you're going to get incremental advantage out of it, are decks that are just trying to put you away real quick. I think I've got Ironworks or whatever, and I'm pretty sure Ironworks can just beat this card.
Okay, first of all, you can't use Ironworks in the example because Ironworks can beat every card.
I don't know, is this... I guess you board this in against Storm too, but you're already playing Eidolon. This feels worse than Revelry or even Wear Tear to me in general.
Potential. I mean, most of the burn decks these days aren't even playing Stomping Grounds, aren't even splashing.
Right, and they're not even doing that anymore. That's true.
But I like this as an option. I think
it's certainly playable. Don't get me wrong. I think it might be standard playable too, because I think it just when I think about even some of the blue white X decks, who are playing any number of random enchantments. Even though what's the one that you gain whenever you gain life, you draw a card. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Stuff like that where you're fine having this out of the board, and okay, you countered my spell, but you took 1, and that's going to matter.
Yeah,
so,
it's incremental. And
it just feels like a little too soft to me, but I think it's close. I agree with you that it's certainly it has a chance.
Yeah. Okay.
So, next up we have a deputy of detention. So if we're continuing our Breakfast Club meme. Then this is the principal.
Correct. This is 100%.
Somebody messed with the bull. They got the horns.
They definitely got the horns.
So this is a generic blue-white for a 1/3 creature. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls and all other non-land permanents with the same name until Deputy of Detention leaves play. So this is Detention Sphere as a creature. So
I just assume the detention sphere gained sentience and became.
I mean, this does look like a robot that is, I guess, some sort of cyborg. Just I could have sworn I left the sphere right here. I am here now.
I am Orb.
I am Orb. If that's true, how did it become a deputy?
It's really good at its job still.
Please give me a badge. I have gained sentience and I deserve a badge.
Badge and gun, please.
Well, everything checks out here. I mean,
that orb is still doing its job. I mean, we'd be fools not to deputize it.
In the old Azorius Guild, Espira would have been like, no, that's a sentient enchantment. Somebody disenchanted. But Dovenbon was like, you know what? You look like a machine. I like your style. Here's your badge and gun.
Oh boy,
that's very good. But I think this creature's pretty good. We talked about tokens already being something that WotC's afraid of. with Afterlife and things like that. Detention Sphere has always been good against tokens, still
again,
good as a creature.
Locks up all them ghosts.
But there's a lot of cool things that Deputy Detentions can do. It being a Vidalkin makes it a little bit awkward when you start looking at like its chances in older formats. You know what I mean? But
It's a wizard.
It is a wizard, and this comes in off Collected Company, and that is scary. Like, that's just... Like,
you don't want this to be like Aether Violet against you either.
oh my god, like, I'm going to attack with these... trigger these 3 Arclight Phoenixes, attack, and I'm just like, ooh, guess what? The deputy's in town!
Howdy, partner.
Just like, but do they come back? Well, maybe a lightning bolt, yeah, sure, but like...
But besides that, no.
But like, that's scary, so I think this is... pretty interesting for sure, and I think it has definitely a chance to see play. Every version of this card has seen play in some way. Fiend Hunter or anything else has seen play. So.
Yeah, and like these effects, it hits a permanent. It does all the things that you want it to do. Obviously, it being a creature is fragile, but like that's when you are a control deck and you play this out of the sideboard, where they don't have a way to kill this guy fairly easily, or they have to like burn something precious against it.
And not just that. I mean, when you look at blue white, we get to Dovinbon, who we'll get here actually in very shortly.
Yeah.
A more tempo-focused version of that deck also exists where, okay, cool, like, kill my 1/3 to get your thing back, but I'm going to try and present other threats that are, tempo and pressing. Like, how much removal do you have? You know what I mean? And that's sort of how those decks present themselves.
Yeah.
So, hey, look how it worked out. You get your boy.
I do. I get to talk about my angry boy, who, is bad. He is
he's good.
He's in cahoots with the Nicobolus. So I mean, like that seems like I'm not saying that the card's bad. I'm saying that he is a antagonist.
I'm sorry for misinterpreting.
That's fine.
I don't think he was not an antagonist before. He's Gruul Bud.
I just thought he was just like a party person. He just likes to party.
No. This is not Theros, man.
He wasn't part of the Vengabus and just wanted to party.
No, they live in the rubble belt, man. They live where the house is done broke down.
Listen, just because he lives, among the rubble, it doesn't mean that he is like bad.
No, I agree with that, but it also doesn't mean he's like partying all the time. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, like, I get it. I understand. He's not part of the revel.
Hey, we literally we don't have trees like we want. We also don't get cool cities like we want. We don't have a lot of money. You know what? Let's party again.
Maybe the parties will bring the end rays. I don't know.
It got real depressing because now I think Domri is like a childhood drinker, and I don't like that. That's upsetting to me.
He looks a little bit older now.
Rurkthar, pass the hooch. Aren't you 4?
Anyway, let's talk about the card. So we have Domri, Chaos Bringer. 2 generic, a red-green for a legendary planeswalker, Domri. It has 3 abilities. We have a +1, which is add red or green to your mana pool. You may creatures cast with this mana have Riot. All right, pretty good. We also have a -3. It says look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then a -8. It says you get an emblem with, at the beginning of each end step, make a 4/4 red and green beast creature token with trample.
So, can you talk about the flavor fail, the fact that he's got a bunch of pigs on this, and he's making 4/4 beasts?
I don't know why they backed away from making, like, boar tokens.
Because, like,
I know they already have boar tokens, but, like, okay, but these are red and green, right?
I don't know. They try to not make as many tokens as possible, and they wanted a 4/4 beast for the other token, and these were... I don't know. I don't know.
You could have made a boar with the other...
I don't know. I got nothing. It's stupid. I agree. But I don't think Domri's stupid. I like this card.
I like it too. I think it gets overshadowed by another card we'll talk about later.
Yeah, the enchantment that says that you just want to play a lot of creatures with is true, but I think like the 5 going to 6 loyalty is good. I do think it is awkward that it's +1 is probably not doing anything the turn you cast it. That's frustrating.
No, it is important that you can do anything with that. With the mana.
No, for sure. But you are probably. I think the key here with this card is how often are you casting it on 3, and if the answer is pretty consistently, then I'm pretty in for this card because the things you're doing the turn after that, if you're casting, the dragon, if you're casting the worm we're going to talk about, like, and you're getting double riot triggers, that's pretty great because 1, they're going to have a hard time interacting with your Domri, if you're casting giant things.
Right.
And then Domri helps refill those things. And its ultimate is one of those things where if you manage to get there, it does eventually kill. I don't think you're judging Domri by the ultimate at all.
No.
I think it is important to note how deceptively powerful, one, going to 6 loyalty is immediately, and two, adding Riot to probably a lot of creatures already have Riot.
Very true.
I mean, I just think it's where we're at. So I remember the last time we really had access to this kind of mana in Naya decks. We both played Naya Pod when it existed, and Domri raid the original Planeswalker, but any Planeswalker you could board in. Even like I had Chandra Pyromaster, whoever else, like in these mid-range mirrors, they took control of the game because they just added too much value. I mean, even adding the ramping mana and adding Riot to any creature adds a ton of value to it. But if you tick down, and then granted, maybe your chances of hitting 2 aren't that great, but if you ever hit 2 creatures off it, even 1 creature, and you still have a Planeswalker, like in mid-range mirrors, it's so many resources. It's just so many, and it's just got Domri's got a big enough butt to sort of defend himself.
Yeah, he can take a few hits, and still keep on kicking, and really allows you, like you said, to like push out big threats that make it easy to protect. You know what I mean? I think that Domri, while not made for the decks that I want to play Domri in, is still very good.
Yeah, it's certainly not the Domri of old.
No.
That card was obscene.
Yeah, it was great.
I missed that card.
I literally look on like MTGO or MTG Goldfish. I look at the card Domri Raid and see what modern decks are playing it and go, can I play this? And I go, it's always no. It's always like, it's still not good enough, but one day.
Oh, man.
One day.
Soon? No, probably not.
Probably not. But I'll let you talk about the Grand Arbiter over here.
Yeah, Dovin Grand Arbiter is a legendary Planeswalker, generic blue and white. It starts with 3 loyalty. It has 3 abilities. The first is +1. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a loyalty counter on Dovin Bond. -1, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. You gain 1 life. -7, look at the top 10 cards of your library, put 3 of them into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. This is a really, really interesting Planeswalker. It doesn't really fit the traditional mold of a blue-white Planeswalker that we've seen. Mm-hmm. And its abilities are kind of interesting, and I still can't tell where it falls. I don't know if it's Huatli, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's Bitter Blossom. I don't know which of these things it is. I know that it does encourage you to play blue-white in a different way, or Bant maybe, or whatever else you're doing with this.
Or Jeskai.
Also true. And I do know that its play pattern of ticking down, ticking up is really effective by itself, and I think that's important because you tick down, you attack, you tick up, and then you attack, right? If you go to 4 loyalty from that, and then you can tick down, tick up, attack, right? But there's also play patterns where you just play it and tick up and start attacking, and then you get to ultimate it multiple times, right? But again, that's the play pattern for Huatli Radiant Champion, and that card sees 0 play. So I don't know which is right for this. I think the key here, though, is that this makes its own flying creatures, whereas Huatli doesn't do anything like that. My thought is that Dovin Bond is very powerful. Very, very powerful. And I think it's probably easily the best of the 3 Planeswalkers we got in this.
Yes.
With Kaya being the deadest last. And that's not a pun.
Like the distant third.
I will say, I did have that in the seal pool, though, and card did a lot of work.
Interesting.
So... Card did a ton of work because nobody wants to attack it. You gain tons of life off of it, and then you just kill them. Now, granted, I was playing a deck that was also playing 2 of the black and the ill-gotten enchantments. Yeah. Like I was trying to go slow, so. But no, I think Dovin. Again, I think it's going to lead to an interesting archetype. It slots in well with things like Adanto Vanguard and History of Benalia.
Yes, there was a list that during the streamer preview event, I think Brad Nelson was playing, that was Jeskai tokens, and it looked disgusting there because you got to play the heroic reinforcements, and like sometimes it's a finisher, but sometimes like it's not, but it supercharges your Dovin, right. Or it just adds more bodies to the board. But like that is an intriguing way to play this card. That allows you to not have to like play your traditional control role, and does something aggressive and really, really interesting with this list.
Yeah, and I think like when you look at Dovin that way, like I think
Planeswalker, I should
right.
say.
I think what's so powerful about it then too is that like there's other cards around it help it, but they still have to deal with the Dovin. You know what I mean? And it'll win the game by itself. I think it's pretty impressive. So I think this card is going to lead to some pretty frustrating play patterns. And I'm glad that the natural progression most of the time is probably going to be a ticket down.
Yeah.
So that because like in the last format, Dovin Bond is the original version of that wasn't very good because of how good Lightning Strike was against it. Because its minus was fine. Here, like I think it's going to be a little bit different, and maybe you'll see people forced into play patterns where they have to tick up first instead of down. Maybe that's what they have to do. But it'll be interesting to see what people do with this card.
You have to play it a little bit like Jace the Mind
Yeah,
Sculptor.
100%. Yeah, like maybe that's it. But again, if you've built it so you have a creature or two in play when you cast it, then like maybe that doesn't matter.
Right.
So I think it's interesting. We don't really need to talk about emergency powers. I know we mentioned it once already. I don't think it's a thing in the format. I think that like the captive audience is much closer to being a real card than this card's going to be. But
I agree with that. We can probably move
I do
on
think
past
like
it's a powerful effect.
There's a 7 mana instant speed time twister in the format, so glean from that what you will.
Yeah.
And the last time we had time twister esque, it did see play, but 7 mana is a lot.
That is a lot.
So now, if we get a Nicol Bolas and War of the Spark, which hint hint we probably will, I don't know, maybe this goes well together. Your Grixis color Nicol Bolas to go with your.
Well, I assume they were just going to get more dual lands, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're just going to get.
They're just going to throw more at us.
Yeah, that's it.
Clearly, that's definitely going to happen.
The fast lands are coming.
It's not going to happen.
Fetches.
Yeah, they're going to merge like New Phyrexia, and we're going to have like the planar overlap again because that people remember that and worked so well.
Yeah, the Phyrexian overlay. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, clearly.
It'll be great because Karn will be like, "Oh man, now I can detonate this bomb."
Oh, this bomb I've been making.
I got a 2-for-1.
2 birds, 1 stone. And people were like, Karn, you'll kill a ton of people.
No. Karn is not like Karn is like Android 16 from Dragon Ball. He's just like, I like birds. I wouldn't hurt a bird.
I wouldn't hurt a bird.
Birds are good.
Birds are great. Like literally, like
they're better than people.
It's like a picture of him in the card pacifism. Like, come on.
That's right. It's like, oh no, you locked up again. Damn it.
Next up, though, we do our Ethereal Absolution.
No,
is
we aren't
definitely
going to talk
something
about this
we're
card
going to be talking about
because this effect has been playable every single time it's been printed.
Yes.
So
this is going to be 2 generic on a black and a white for an enchantment. It says creatures you control get +1/+1. And creatures your opponents control get -1/-1, and then has an activated ability. 2 generic, white and black. Exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. If a creature card was if this was a creature card, you create a 1/1 black and white flying spirit token. So this reminds me of obviously a lot of different cards. It's black and white, so it reminds me of Zealous Persecution, which was very good. Modern playable and black-white tokens. It also reminds me of Curse of Death's Hold, which was also very good.
yeah, I mean, what was it? Cursed. What was the other black enchantment too? The one from Kamigawa that still see modern player
Knight
time.
of Souls Betrayal.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
So yes, this is effect. Even if it affects you, sees play. In both the modes where it gave like either didn't affect you or gave your team a bonus, definitely saw play. I think like this card is a beating a little bit.
So if you've been paying attention to Twitter since Arena came out, LSV has already actively complained about this card on Twitter, as have a number of pros because of how oppressive it is in limited. And historically, those cards that are that oppressive and limited
aren't
becomes standard playable no matter what.
Right.
See Pack Rat, for example.
Yes.
And this effect, like again, being a if you look at some what black white, because we talked about how black white control might be a thing. We're going to talk about the Wrath that we're going to see here in a minute. We have things like the flip enchantment from Rivals.
Yeah. Profane Procession.
Profane Procession. Yeah. You have the makings of a black white control deck. We talked about how Karn is probably the go-to planeswalker for that deck. This is a win condition by itself. You just kill your opponent's creatures and you make 2/2s out of them.
Yeah,
like, that's crazy. I do also want to point out here. So Kaya comes to Ravnica, kills the Ghost Council, then releases all the ghosts Walter Peck style. What happens? What happens? Not even like 3 days after we get the full spoiler, a new Ghostbusters sequel is announced. Ivan Reitman is pissed.
He's released. I gotta kick this into action. Who knew?
He told his son. He's like, my only son. They've released the ghosts again. You must summon Dan Aykroyd.
You will put them back
and recapture them. I don't know why I don't have Ivan Reitman to make him sound like a dying Caesar, but
Why
there
not?
he is. Oh man.
Yeah, I like this card. I've been like trying to think about ways that we could like build black white and what it looks like and what cards we're going to be playing because I think that it's intriguing.
I think that's a deck I'm interested to you and I worked on the black white deck a little bit before, and I don't know if it goes with history and stuff now, but I think like black white enchantment control could be interesting
for sure.
I want to play my cards. I love my cards. So
I think you're right. I think like even the fact that you can like tick down a card and make not just be making initially a 1/1, but making a 2/2 or something like that more relevant.
And they stack quickly.
Exactly.
So
there's a lot of good things that you can do. Yeah, there's a lot of good avenues that you can use this card to build with. So,
yeah, I think so.
Oh man. I know that we're both big fans of Treasure Map, and that has seemed to catch on to the rest of the rest of the group. I mean, like Treasure Map's a good card, and it's good with this too.
Yeah, it is.
Just like it's good to like ramp out a Niv Mizzet at like a few turns early. This kind of has the same feel.
It really does. Yeah, all right, I'm in for it.
Next up, we are going to talk about that amazing, fantastic Elf Lizard Wizard.
I do at least want to. I do want to at least mention Fireblade Artist, which is a card we did skip. It's a 2/2 Rakdos creature, has haste, and then during your upkeep you can sacrifice a creature to deal 2 damage to an opponent. I don't think that's the sack outlet that Aristocrats wants, but it could just be another.
Yeah.
So
again, I think that you could look at it as just being like a good aggressive creature that can potentially sit on the battlefield and not attack, but still have a positive effect towards killing your opponent.
Yes.
Which is what you want. Again,
It's
like we just said in the last podcast, it's exactly what you want.
It's also Cirque du Soleil on the Night's King.
That's also very true. Do you think like final payment is it anything at all? It's hard to tell. It could potentially be something. I've seen a couple lists play it, but it seems fairly marginal.
So I get we're skipping right. Final payment is white and black instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, pay 5 life or sacrifice a creature or enchantment destroy target creature. So I don't know about standard. Maybe. I think there's some really interesting play patterns with this card in like sagas, for example.
Yeah.
So like you get to trigger your saga and then you can sack it. Like History Medallia, like trigger the 3rd one, sack it, kill your guy, which is interesting. I do think maybe it has Death Shadow playability.
Wow.
Because I've played Orzhov Death Shadow or Mardu Death Shadow before. You're playing Orzhov Charm, things like that. And this is like Dismember that kills anything. And also, you could playing it in like Mardu Pyromancer, for example. This with Young Pyromancer works out pretty well. So maybe that's a stretch. It's a stretch.
Sure.
In standard, I don't know. That's pretty hefty. But 2 mana instant destroy target creature. You're right. Is legitimate text, especially when you have afterlife creatures.
Yes.
So, yeah, good call. So some in commons to talk about there.
Yeah.
But let's get to the show because Frilled Mystic is my buddy. If you've ever known me, one of my favorite cards of all time is Mystic Snake.
Yes.
Mystic Snake is in my battle box and it will never leave. And this is going in 2. I want you to understand.
Good.
They're going to high five each other.
Joy.
The first time they're on the battlefield next to each other, they're going to be like, brother? Now, granted, one's sentient and the other one is legitimately a snake, so I don't know. But yeah, this is green, blue for a 3/2 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, counter target spell. It's pretty good. This card has Jerry Thompson enamored. It's all he's written about the last 2 weeks is like how to play Frilled Mystic, and I think it's pretty spicy. You could even look. There's people like to play flash decks. And green and blue have some pretty interesting options for Flash right now. If you wanted to try and play like Simic Flash or even like Bant Flash, with things like Swift Warden, which is a 3/3 with Flash. We have the Fairy Duelist we didn't talk about, but is a 1/2 with Flash. There's a couple ways you could play that deck and just play like a different version of the blue tempo deck. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And Frilled Mystic is one of the best things you could be doing in a deck like that because you get it's a 3/2, whereas Mystic Snake was a 2/2. You get to surprise with a creature on your turn, and you get to counter whatever their spell is in turns 4 and 5, those critical turns. It's a sweet 2-for-1. So I think this card's going to see play. and it makes me happy. It makes me happy that it's
yeah,
so good
you
enough.
know, it is definitely you definitely have to jump through hoops to play it. You know that mana requirement is no joke, but the reward is worth it.
Yeah, agreed. I just want to take a minute as we go forward to just keep pointing out great art. Get the point is one of the best pieces of Rakdos art. It reminds me of Unhinged art.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but like of just like a person who is on a spinning wooden wheel having daggers thrown at him. That's so Rakdos. It's great. And then a growth spiral too. Like it's just like beautiful. So and I think that's actually
that's Seb McKinnon, yeah.
Yeah, and I think is that I put that on the list.
I hope so because
I did. That's our next card.
Yeah, it's 100% playable. So Gross Spiler is a green and a blue for a instant. It says draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So it's explore at instant speed. Obviously, having to have a little bit of more of a stringent CMC can be a downside. I don't necessarily know how much of an effect that'll be in the current standard. And there are plenty of archetypes that can literally like play this. You have ramp strategies that they can play this to much success. You have, something like Bant Nexus or a Nexus deck that can take advantage of like being able to find a way to accelerate what you're doing and draw and cantripping basically. But yeah, this card is perfectly fine. I think that it'll be a part of a few different archetypes that are going to be prevalent in the new format. Hopefully, I hope they are at least.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Except for Bant Nexus.
But of course, this card is good in Bant Nexus.
I know, I understand, but but not that one.
Really interesting take on this card. I think it was Brad Nelson's articles today talking about, and I don't know whose list it was because it wasn't his originally, but this is the splash card for Drakes, going Teamer Drakes. So you can play this, so you can play turn 3 Crackling Drakes.
That's cool. That's nice tech.
It was pretty cool. You have to play a lot of shocklands to do it.
Yeah.
But does it seem kind of sweet? So something to consider. Next up is Gruul Spellbreaker. Oh my gosh, this is everything we ever wanted, right?
Yeah, this card's absurd. I've played a little bit with it in that mono green Gruul deck, and yeah, it does.
You just play it and you make a 4/4. You're just like, do something about this.
That's exactly what you do. Even like I played against mono red when I was playing it. I was like, I'll just take a 4/4,
Yes.
or just like I'll do it on turn 2 because I played a Llanowar Elf.
Why not? So this is one generic red green for a 3/3 ogre warrior. It has Riot, it has Trample, and it says as long as it's your turn, you and Gruul Spellbreaker have hexproof, which is such an important piece of text when we were talking about a format where Settle the Wreckage is going to be so important.
In all honesty, like it's really good against red too because like they can't burn this out. They can't burn you out. They can't target you with risk factor.
Oh God!
Because I think it's target opponent.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So a lot of the tricks that they have to like take advantage of your end step are disabled, are just like out of the running, and then you just have a 4/4. So it gets you a lot further than you initially think. Like obviously, Settle the Wreckage is the first thing you think about, but there are a lot of things that are pretty advantageous to be on your turn and have hexproof.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You mentioned red. Like I think about like what they want to do to kill this creature sometimes, especially when you're attacking into their creatures. And like, yeah, you're right. Like this is
they want to like block it with their Vyashino Pyromancer and then
shock it or so. Yeah, like,
and they can't.
Ooh.
It's good. This is like one of the cards that, regardless, I think pretty much regardless of if you're playing like a Gruul deck, this will be in there somewhere, whether it's the main deck or the sideboard. Again, this is a card that is really gross with multiple instances of Riot. This is one of my favorite cards of the set. It's one of the cards that I want to be able to play pretty much all the time.
When you look at it, you think like, how did you come up with like what Gruul's going to look like? I have to feel like this is one of the first cards submitted, and it's just like, oh yeah, like this card has to have Gruul in the title. Like this is what Gruul should be.
Yeah.
So, pretty sweet. We go from a cool Gruul creature to another horrific abomination.
Yeah, the Simic really someone's got to look into what they're doing and not turn a blind eye to it. I understand that there are definitely people from Azorius in this, but it's already gone too far. Like those guards ain't got no chance.
No. This one's yours.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So Hydroid Crassus. X blue green for a 0/0. That seems like that's not very good. No, just kidding. There's more text.
You got me.
It says when you cast the spell, you gain half X life and draw half X cards. Round down each time. So that's a cast trigger, first and foremost. This doesn't have to resolve for that to happen. It just happens when you cast it. It has flying and trample. And then Hydroid Crassus enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, which I think is like the least exciting text on this card.
Here's the thing I have to say. So when I was evaluating this card initially, I read everything as half. So I was like, okay, so I paid 4 mana, right, to get a 2/2. No, I did that wrong, and I think like that's caused me to reevaluate how I feel about this card, because getting X counters is, I think, actually really, really important.
Yes,
but yeah, you're right. It's the least exciting part about it.
Yeah, the other part, like this card is like Todd Anderson had they've been doing like versus series with New Standard, and Todd Anderson had a teamer ramp list. And every time he cast this card, it was like absurd. It was every single time. Like even if it was immediately answered, like he still had gained so much life and had so many extra cards to like recover. And that's what you want in like the ramp deck. This like it functions like a Sphinx's Revelation at times. Obviously sorcery speed only, but it can, even if like your control opponent counters this, that's almost fine. Like you still get some advantage of it and are able to like rebound. And I think like this is just one of the best ramp creatures to like ever come out, and it just being like so scalable is hugely important for it to be successful in the format. And like I want to play that team or ramp deck. Like it looks bonkers because you get to play like a bunch of cool big creatures, and you ramp perfectly fine with what we have in the format. So I'm a big fan of this card too.
Yeah, I'm higher on it now that I like read the card, I guess. I still think that it's nice that it leaves you with something when it gets countered. And I think like when you look at the format, like I think you still, if you're playing the ramp deck, you have to look at this and like figure out like when is this better than like Palooza Worm, for example, right? And like this is probably better than Palooza Worm often, and you can probably play both. So you do what
Why
you
not
want.
both?
But yeah, I think like you're gonna get annoyed when this card gets cast, I think, throughout its standard format. So I'll look another mythic. Next up is Judith, the Scourge Diva. So you maybe heard me talking about Judith in the last episode. I wasn't trying to like subtweet or anything because I don't want to get upset, because I think she would harm me.
Probably.
I think I'm supposed to like enjoy it for a minute before I die, but I would be harmed. So
there would be violence, yes.
So it's a generic black and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature human shaman. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judith the Scourge Diva deals 1 damage to any target. This is really the most interesting Blood Artist style we've ever gotten. It being non-token is important.
Yes.
But 1 damage to any target is crazy. When you think about cards that we already have looked at that goes well with us, Fanatical Firebrand, for example. All of a sudden that can kill a creature with 2 toughness. All of a sudden it shocks. Like that's a big deal. And then the fact that things get +1/+0 was like she is a very interesting aristocrat lord, and I think is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, she's what makes people want to like have the availability to build aristocrats.
Yeah, agreed.
Like have the availability to build that archetype. Period. Just because this card can do so much for what you need to do, and like there's so many like things that just push that, because most of the time you're playing the deck, you're playing small creatures. Well, this buffs their power, so they have to trade, or your opponent's just taking more damage. If they trade, then you can either ping a planeswalker or ping them or ping their board. Like it's just what that archetype needed, and I'm glad that they allowed this to exist within the format so that people can build those decks. Because I know people, anytime Orzhov is legal, people are like, "Can we build aristocrats? Can we do it?" and you can. And this is the card for that. I mean, I'm not sure like you could just build a I think any kind of Rakdos aggressive deck kind of looks like an aristocrats deck in one way or another. Potentially they'd be divergent enough to not, but you're always going to be playing Judith. Like you're always going to be playing the card that is this. This is again the quintessential Rakdos card. It feels like for the set. It's weird that it's not Rakdos, but it's definitely Judith for sure.
Yeah. I don't much worse. I'm very excited for this card.
Yeah.
Have you seen some of the Goblin lists?
Yes, the Goblin Menagerie list.
Oh my gosh!
Some of them being like mono red, not necessarily like splashing for Judith or anything like that. But
Right.
there have been a few that have really taken advantage of like Prospector.
Yeah.
And having some taking advantage of Prospector as well as Garna. I saw someone be playing with Garna as well.
Yeah.
Which if you like. That card is from Dominaria. It has flash. It's a 5-mana card, red, black, and 3 generic, and it says when this enters the battlefield, return all creature cards that were put in the graveyard this turn from anywhere. It gives all your creatures haste. Well, it works really well with Skirk Prospector because you sack all your guys, and then you have a bunch of mana, and you flash that in and get them all back.
Yeah, it's gross. The chain keeps going. So.
Yeah, and obviously that combos well with Judith. You sack all your creatures, you ping them, you bring them all. It's a lot of synergy, and people love that.
Yeah.
So
it feels like a puzzle you need to put together. And then,
yeah.
Like for me, it's like, so wait, you want to play these cards, but you also want to play Skirk Prospector and CJ Commander? So like, it's like one of those Frosted Mini Wheats commercial where like the adult in me appreciates like the Rakdos cards, but the kid in me says Siege Commander.
But yes, like that is a cool thing that you can that you could really do in this format.
Yeah, absolutely. You get Kaya.
Oh man! All right, so I get the Womp Womp Planeswalker Kaya Orzhov Usurper, 1 generic white black for a legendary Planeswalker Kaya with 3 loyalty to begin with. And she has a +1. It says exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. You gain 2 life if at least 1 creature card was exiled this way. And it says -1. Exile target non-land permanent with converted mana cost of 1 or less. Then -5. Kaya Orzhov Usurper deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards that player owns in exile, and you gain that much life. Ooh, man, this card does sometimes a lot of nothing, unfortunately, and I think like that's what holds it back. It's so weird. There are certain times in Standard where this card could have been like really interesting and like really intriguing, but at where we are right now, it just doesn't feel there, and it feels like maybe at some point in time it could be like it could be that I need to exile 2 things from someone's graveyard, like, and Kai is perfect for it. So maybe like this is the graveyard hate I get to play in my black-white X deck, but that's a sideboard card, so it just feels like a Planeswalker that does a lot of weird things that could be powerful but are not. I think it's the -1 is what really I think kind of relegates this card to not being playable.
So like the flavor is because most of you would want to hit tokens with this, so because she kills ghosts, I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's that far fetched. Like when you look at, we've already talked about how like Terramander might be something that sees a fair amount of play, and we have Is It Phoenix. But I think what's even awkward with that is that you could spend your whole game exiling like that deck's entire like graveyard and just die to Crackling Drake.
Yeah,
because this can't interact with it. I do think that like it's an interesting card because like it does present like if you are playing an interactive matchup like black-white control is going to kill a lot of creatures, then this just sort of like slowly like I played it in sealed just to sort of try it out, and what I kept doing was only exiling 1 card at a time because I didn't care about exiling their graveyard. I just it's up to just exile 1 creature each time, and then they have to keep attacking you, so their creature's going to die as you block and everything. And then like I was able to deal I think 9 damage is the most I did to finish a game, and I thought that was fairly interesting when you look at like the play pattern of it. But I think in Standard it's a lot harder to do that. And when I look at Planeswalkers like this, like if I want a Planeswalker I can be dirtily and sit behind, why am I not just playing Dovinbon?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, why am I just playing that card? And I think it's rough. I think it has a chance, but I think it is awkward to look at a Planeswalker and go, they designed a Planeswalker for the sideboard?
Yeah.
Right? And everyone's talking about, like, look at this set. They've designed it for Arena. And it's like, well, then I give you Kaya. So, like...
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, and I'm glad to see a character that was introduced supplementally like get into a real set.
Yeah,
because she beat out everyone, right? She beat out Dak Faden. She beat out what's his name? The Goblin, who technically he was in the masterpieces, but that doesn't count.
That's Duretti, right?
Duretti, yeah. So I think that's really cool, and she's super flavorful for as a character, and is now the guild leader of the Orzhov. So like, sweet, but. Yeah, unfortunately, the card's not great. But you know what is great?
What?
Her Wrath.
The last thing I want to say about Kaya is Settle the Wreckage is an interesting card with this. It does put things in exile. Now, that is the only like interaction that I can think of. Also, any of the enchantment effects that put something in exile as well. It's important. Those are also counted in exile. They're typically under permanence.
Yeah.
So don't forget about those if you ultimate this.
That's
all I ask.
Fair enough.
But yes, Kaya's Wrath. Much better.
So Kaya's Wrath is white, black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. You gain life equal to the number of creatures you controlled that were destroyed this way. So it's just a Wrath. You might get life if you killed your own creatures, which is cool. But the key here is they printed a 4-mana straight Wrath again.
Yep. It's super hard to cast.
We haven't had one since Return to Ravnica, correct?
Yes.
Since Supreme Verdict. You say super hard to cast, but as I said, like I think like one, our mana bases are going to be solid. This card is not as hard to cast, I think, as you might think. Mm-hmm. And if you're playing just straight black-white control, I think we're okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So this card is I think super powerful. There are some things in the format that you have to remember. If your opponent's 2-drop is Adanta Vanguard, that's a problem. If your opponent,
that's a problem.
If your opponent's 4-drop is Rekindling Phoenix,
that's a problem.
So one of the reasons I think they've been okay, maybe they're okay with printing this 4-mana Wrath, is that they've built in the creatures into the format that can
bounce back,
get around it a little bit. So and even more than that, we have 2 1-drop creatures in the format now that can technically make another creature indestructible. The Knight from Dominaria, and then the Watchdog from this set that we didn't.
The good dog,
that good boy. So
and you even have a Hunted Witness that like makes a creature
in Afterlife as well. Like there's a lot of ways to get around this card. So I don't see it like just dominating the format. And I know a lot of people said like trying to warp their mana bases or like try Esper. Let's try this. That may not happen. Settle is honestly probably still just fine. But it is nice to have access to this card and to see it and to have like that sort of valve in the format that we just haven't had in a while. We have a 5-mana Wrath right now, but I like the 4-mana.
I think like this is a card that is not supposed to necessarily hurt the like white aggressive decks, but definitely takes aim at something like Gruul or
and,
green,
and Gruul and Golgari.
Yeah.
I mean, Golgari does not do a solid of a job as recovering from these Wrath effects. So that's why they have relied on big dumb idiots like Carnage Tyrant for a while now. So yeah, I agree with that.
All right.
Lavinia.
Lavinia's next. All right, cool.
Poor old Lavinia begin again. It's close.
Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. So Lavinia is a white and a blue for a 2/2. It says each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. It says whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. Now, Lavinia definitely feels more like a card targeted for Modern than Standard necessarily. But can do a lot of interesting things in Modern and has a lot of interesting implications for sure. I don't know how powerful these kind of effects are stable to a 2/2 body. It seems fairly fragile, but it does a bunch of absurd stuff.
I mean, we talked about Electro Dominance in part 1 of the podcast, and this turns that off. I think it's super flavorful that like this turns off emergency powers.
Yeah,
like she's like the Azorius Renegade, but like when Dovahmon's like, I'm gonna summon this Nicol Bolas, so like Lavinia's like the one who's like, well, hold on now, I have protection from red, so I became a 2/2 in the process. But so I think that's an interesting. But yeah, I don't know what this does yet, but it'll be interesting to see where she maybe slots in the future. She's going to be fighting with things like Gaddock Teague for sure. In decks that want this, those sort of taxing effects, but I think she has a chance to play. Next up is an old favorite, Mortify. generic white and black, instant, destroy target creature or enchantment. And so we talked about black-white being a deck that we want to play. This is pretty clean. Black-white has some enchantments that are also we want to destroy.
Yeah.
I like that this can just destroy, like, History of Benalia, too.
Yeah, all the sagas. Just like having a way to interact with those is really important.
Yeah, I like, or the Eldest Reborn. You know what I mean? Just like, yeah, I think like this was a really, really solid reprint that the format wanted. So, my dog is currently having a dream, and he's doing something cool in it.
He just agrees that Mortify was needed for the format, clearly.
So yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. It's a good card. It's all play the last time it was printed. LC play this time. So,
all right.
I skipped Nikia. Is that okay?
I think that's fine. There are some. I'll say this: Nikia of the old ways plays very well with Hydroid Cresses.
That's true. That is certainly true.
That is the thing that people can do in this format. This is a much more playable one-sided Mana Flare.
Yeah.
We had Zendikar Resurgent was
Yes.
another one that was a one-sided Mana Flare. This feels much more playable. Obviously, there's a downside, but people have been able to play like Nullhide Ferox with this downside and still be all right.
Yeah. I think that compare this to Nullhide Ferox though is even still frustrating. Like,
It is. You can't just turn it off at will.
well, like what? So you want to ramp into this, right, with your creatures, which reduces the effectiveness of Mana Flare. But more than that, like ramp decks, Crassus is the good payoff for sure.
Yes.
But you normally need to have other ways to dig for action, and Nikia turns that off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's super powerful. I played Mirari's Wake when it was in standard. Yeah, one side of Mana Flares are super powerful, but you could then also go cast like Cunning Wish before, whereas this you're just not allowed. So
it's cool to see like the character in a card. I do wish we got another Ruach Thar card though.
yeah, I know you were pretty certain we were too.
Well, because this is the only one that breaks the Guildgate quote rule.
Right.
All the other ones have had this. So there's two Guildgates, the front entrance and the side entrance. And they've always had one of each of either the guild leader and the guild like representative or whatever. But Ruach Thar is quoted on the Guildgate, but it is Nikia that we actually got.
Yeah. Hey, we got that Eva quote, and she's not here. So
the what? Oh yeah.
So-
Yeah, that's true. But she wasn't on a Guildgate.
I know. But
Did you put Pitiless Pontiff on here?
I did.
Okay, good. So Pitiless Pontiff, black and a white for a 2/2, and it says has an activated ability. It's a vampire cleric. It says you can pay one and sacrifice another creature. Pitiless Pontiff gains Death Touch and Indestructible until end of turn, which are two great things to get if you are blocking or attacking. So this is again another one of that aristocrats piece.
Yes.
It's not exactly Cartel Aristocrat. That card was absurd.
Yeah, I think we have in front of the show suggest it was a lot better than that, and I think like people forget how. Again, I said aristocrats nickels and dimes you. I think people forget how common it was to die to you not being able to block because of the protection.
Yeah.
So yes, you don't want to block this creature, but you can. So and obviously it takes some mana. So
yeah,
I think it's significantly worse than Cartel Aristocrat, but probably still good enough.
Oh shit! If you're sure, I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, like, at least with what you have in the format, like this is the card that you're going to play, and this allow you to keep attacking,
right?
Or just like nickel and dime them out, like we already said.
Yeah, good card. It is awkward that like when you compare it to like Cartel Aristocrat from before, even like Moment of Craving, for example, is a card that is going to harm this. Yeah. But overall, like if you're playing Mardu Aristocrats, you're playing this card, and this card and Judith are like doing some cool high fives. So because this gets to attack as a 3-power Death Touch creature, good times. Hey, next up is Ivan Ooze.
Yeah, this is the Ooze Wizard,
the Prime Speaker Xanathar. Sorry, Vanifar, not Xanathar. I've done it twice. I wrote Xanathar on our spreadsheet originally.
Prime Speaker Zanzibar.
It's 2 generic blue and a green for a 2/4, as we said, legendary creature, Elf Ooze Wizard. So it has an activated ability of sacrifice another creature, then search your library for a creature with CMC equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature CMC. So this is Birthing Pod, and you put it onto the battlefield. I don't know if I need to tell you much about Birthing Pod. If you know what that card is, you can go ahead and search for the modern ban list, and there you'll find
You'll
it.
find it on there.
Now, of course, they got banned for one. It had Phyrexian mana, so you could technically play it wherever you wanted, and you could play it a turn earlier by paying life. And it was just an artifact, so it was a little harder to interact with. This being a creature is tougher, or is easier, I should say, to interact with. That being said, Birthing. Oh, I should say this: you can only activate this anytime you can activate a sorcery, which same as Birthing Pod, but also important. That's sometimes less intuitive on a creature, I think. But you can do some gross things with this. We've already mentioned how a lot of creatures want to die. Granted, this is Simic, so harder to get some of that afterlife stuff in there. But Bant, we could be doing that. The real gross thing, though, is whenever you have this kind of card is the combo potential. And there's already a number. You can go search. There's a number of chains that you can already do in Modern to make it infinite. Now, again, you're starting with a 2/4 for 4, so I don't know. It may not be good enough. But you got to be careful. Pod is just a dangerous. The ability of what Birthing Pod does is just dangerous. It just is.
I like that you can just chain this with the ooze we already talked about and just do some absurd stuff.
Oh my gosh!
This card intrigues me. I'm a big fan of Birthing Pod.
Oh yeah, no, it's a very cool card. I can't say I miss it in Modern or anything. But
no, I mean
in Standard.
In Standard it was such a fun deck to play. I don't know you could. I think if you're going to be playing it, I think you're playing it in Teamer because that's where you get really really good creatures. So you can do a lot of fun things with it, and someone's going to do it. I don't know if it's good enough for Modern. I think a lot of people are really trying to make it work in Modern, and I'm very unsure about that. It being a creature makes it so much more fragile. And if you're playing it in Modern, you're just playing it.
You just can't activate it that first turn. That's Pod doesn't have the haste restrictions,
right?
So.
And people are trying to figure out how to give it haste and what have you. And I'm like, it's just maybe not meant to be, and that's okay. But I think this card is cool and Standard, and will probably do some pretty nifty things.
I want to brawl with this card.
That seems like a really fun time as well.
Yeah. So that and the green enchantment that we didn't talk about, whenever you cast a card that doesn't have the same name as something else, draw a card. Oh yeah,
that makes sense.
I know next up is Rakdos. I do want to mention Rakdos Firewheeler. I don't know if that card's going to be good enough for Standard, but I want it to be. It's close.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I agree with you 100%.
So, you got Rakdos.
I know. Rakdos, the showstopper.
That's it. End it. Cash it. You should definitely cut out right here.
Rakdos, the showstopper. It's a 6/6 a demon with, you guessed it, flying and trample.
Weird.
For 4 generic black-red. It says, when Rakdos, the showstopper, enters the battlefield, flip a coin for each creature that isn't a demon, devil, or imp. Destroy each creature whose coin comes up tails. So you don't get to call a coin or anything like that. It's just if it's tails, it's dead. This card has already given us some absurd stream clips from Saffron Olive. If you haven't seen that yet, it's very funny and very disheartening for him, unfortunately.
Oh, it happened to me too. I have a video of it too.
Yeah, it's sad, and it definitely. I don't know if this card is good enough for Standard.
I don't know either. People like randomness. It probably isn't good enough for Standard.
It's too random.
It is a card that is, I think, we talk about Arena, is designed for, the animation on it is cool, and the flashy effect is designed for Arena. Who knows what's going to happen? But competitive players tend to not like
RNG
coin flipping.
Yeah, but I think it does at least harken back to a time when coin flipping was more common, and I think that connects with people. You yourself are known to be a flipper of coins.
I do have many a foil Clark's thumb, so don't you worry.
So I feel like it hits on that note. I don't think it's competitively tilted so much as a nostalgia piece.
So, how many demons do we have in Standard?
I mean, a few.
And Liliana's contract is also in Standard.
We're close.
So
to that, I think.
can we make it so that we
definitely have 16? You can play. Because you can play Bells and Lock.
Yep. Who?
I wish my Coke said something on it. Wimbledon champion Bells and Lock.
Thank you. Okay.
I was trying to think of what the tennis championship was called. We could play him. We could play the four CMC demon that makes you like sacrifice a creature or something like that.
Yes, Demon of Catastrophes.
Yeah, that guy's probably good enough.
Yeah, sure.
We have the Spawn of Mayhem.
Yep.
And we have Rakdos.
We have this weird 5/2 non-flying demon that is
sure. Like, why not?
All right.
And you just throw a few other like red and black cards in there. You got a stew going.
All right, I like it. So that's our. We will never lose a creature to Rakdos.
Yeah, never.
And
Rakdos is the last one we play. I don't know when that win trigger happens, but we just hopefully instantly once we play Rakdos, like the enchantment season, like balloons drop from the ceiling. And go, you won.
And then Rakdos and Bells Unlock the legendary Super Saiyan can high five.
Yeah, correct. They.
I saw Broly this week. I'm so sorry.
I just assumed they do the fusion dance.
You know what's funny is a demon tried to do the fusion dance with Grizzlebrand. It didn't work. Kept getting the finger placement wrong. I hope that's why you listen to this show. It's for stupid stuff like that.
If you aren't aware, Grizzlebrand has hook strands.
I like how on the Magic podcast, you're more concerned that they don't know who Grizzlebrand or what he's about, not the fact that you just randomly said the fusion dance.
Oh, that's all right. No,
wait, Ford makes their cars dance now?
They know.
Fair enough.
They know.
All right, next up is a pretty good card here, a Ravager Worm. This is 3 generic red, green, green for a 4/5 creature worm. It has Riot, and it says when it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Ravager Worm fights a target creature you don't control, or destroy target land with an activated ability that isn't a mana ability. So destroy target.
Search for Azcanta.
That's it.
Oh,
that's
or Azcanta the second row.
Or Legion's Landing.
Or Adonto the first fort.
Yeah, that's the one. So those are kind of the two.
But, yeah, that's it.
I guess Field of Ruin if you're feeling real spicy. But,
yeah, they're tapped out. Or you know what? Memorial to Volley. Memorial to Volley.
Yeah, any of the
right?
memorials. Yeah, there you go. That's fair.
So fair enough. That's like it has targets.
Yeah, no, it definitely has targets. It does.
That part has targets. Your opponent's gonna have creatures, so that has targets. Right's great. So I think like this card to me is definitely like it is mythic because this is something that is pretty absurd in limited.
You're not wrong. I've cast it already.
So like that makes sense. But this card, for all intents and purposes, definitely feels like a rare.
Maybe I don't know. I think like if it costs, I think like the 6 mana maybe is what makes me feel like I agree with you. But this is the grueliest gruel card
that ever
did gruel. So
again, this is I'll need to remind you. This is really good when double riot happens.
Double riot. Oh my gosh. I will say the nice thing about that is like you see, that's kind of true, but it sort of depends because fight does make it a little bit awkward. You don't always want to attack immediately when you fight, so there's some pressure there on like.
But sometimes it's nice just to make this like a 6/7.
Oh no, I agree.
Fight like a 6/6.
Trust me, I want to live the dream too, where it's just their only creature, and you just literally do the full belly flop with the worm. I hope that's what the like I've already seen it, so I know it's not, but I really do want that to be the art, like the animation on Arena, where it's just like. Ugh! Looks like a beached whale hitting your opponent. So, you know what it goes really well with, though?
Yeah, the next card.
The Jumanji jungle drum beat they find in the construction camp. The Rhythm of the Wild.
I mean, like...
Dun, 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 dun.
I've heard of the Rhythm of the Night, but never the Rhythm of the Wild.
In the Rumble Belt, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8. Yeah, so tell us about Rhythm of the Wild.
It's a 1 generic and a red and a green for an enchantment. And it says creature spells you control can't be countered. That's real good.
That's good text.
And it says non-token creatures you control have riot. Also very good. This card, I initially, like I said this card into our group chat. I said, this might be an interesting like swap out for like Fires to Yavimaya and Cube. I knew the card was constructed playable. Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't fully on board to say like this is better than Fires. I think this might be better than Fires of Yavimaya.
I think it is. Riot is so good.
Just the sheer fact that like your creature spells can't be like Riot is great, but your creature spells can't be countered. Like that's also very good.
Yeah, I won't say strictly better because the +2/+2 is good.
Yes,
but Riot, your baseline is your creatures have haste. But sometimes you don't want them to face. Sometimes you just want to be beefier.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to be big.
Sometimes like, well, you got to work out in the gym for a day or two, and then we can go.
Sometimes you want your adapt creatures that already have a counter on them, so they have their special abilities unlocked.
So they fly, or they trample, or they. Oh, God, it's great.
Produce 3 mana, or
go get another creature.
find their friend.
You find their crabby friend.
Link claws. I don't know what you do.
Device it together, bud. Yeah, this card is very, very good, and I think like we talked about Domri, and I like Domri, but this card starts putting pressure on what you can do with your Gruul deck because you have to play a massive number of creatures with this card for it to be effective.
Same thing with Domri, to be fair.
Right, but of course, like playing both of them means you're playing less creatures.
Right, so, that's the frustrating part.
And I want 4 of this card. Not necessarily more than 1 of Domri.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Because here's the thing. These all stack too. Like, it's unreal. Like, that's... it's so good.
It's very good. This is why I want to play, like, Gruul decks, just, like, all the time, forever.
Just like all these Rhythm of the Wild. Just gotta get your foil playset of Rhythm of the Wilds and go to town.
I know that, like... It's definitely going to be like people are going to figure it out, and like Gruul's not going to be competitive anymore because they're just going to like overload on Wraths or what have you, and that's going to make me sad. But I just want like this card to always be good.
Right. Yeah,
Please.
I agree.
Please. Before we move on to the next one, I do want to give a shout out to Roboboat Runner just for the sheer fact that it also hates tokens. Like just another random card that's like, oh, this can't be blocked by tokens. Get wrecked.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Next up we have look, another Sweet Angel.
Yeah.
Seraph of the Scales, 2 generic white-black. Look, another mythic. A 4/3 creature of flying. It has 2 activated abilities. For a white, it can give it Vigilance on a turn, and for a black, it can give it Death Touch on a turn. And it has Afterlife 2.
2 souls.
This is not the first Afterlife 2 creature we've had.
I know,
I'm glad you saved it for this one.
But this one was the first one we saw that had 2 souls.
I will say this: the other one, the Ministrant or whatever, had a person who then had a soul enslaved, which the Orzhov does that, so it made sense. This angel does seem to have 2 souls, and one is good, and one's bad.
Yeah,
like that's how it is. You got good soul, you got bad soul.
You got a little angel, little devil. Well,
this is the Anakin Skywalker of angels.
Sure, yeah.
He's supposed to bring balance to the Force. But she can go leave it in darkness. I think like I said earlier, with the 4/4 in the last one, the 4/4 Sphinx for 4 wasn't great, but this is a little bit different. It can trade up. And Afterlife 2 is pretty powerful. So I don't know like that I'm building a whole archetype around this card. You know what I mean? But it's good.
Yeah, I think like this is another one of those cards that you look at and go, well, maybe I'm actually building white-black angels. Like that's maybe what I'm actually doing and not Boros angels anymore because I have this card that kind of guides me that way. So let's look at that.
Yeah, that's fair. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
It's kind of a no frills kind of card.
Again, Afterlife 2 is what you're paying for here, and that's
exactly.
A couple of small things before we move on to the next card. First off, Shark to Crab, stop it.
Simic, why?
Secondly, Sphinx the new prov. I've already joked about this card. I have figured out what it looks like. That Sphinx went and gambled at Pleasure Island. It is now slowly turning into a donkey to be sold off into slavery.
Well, you'd think that Sphinx would know. Also, this card, it looks like it's pretty absurd and limited.
I've cast it. It's good.
Okay.
I like this. Like my seal pools were diverse enough that I've cast a lot of these cards. I feel pretty good about it.
Nice.
That's the one thing I have enjoyed about Arena. I could play 50 games in an hour. So, but our actual next card is I put Teysa Karlov on here. I don't know how you feel about Teysa.
I think that she's a borderline card, in all honesty.
Well, why don't you read her?
Teysa Karlov, 2 generic, in a black and a white for a legendary creature, Human Advisor. She's a 2/4, and it says
tap her to mill.
Yes, you certainly
her and Mayor of Averbrook.
you certainly can. It says if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers twice. An additional time. And then creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. So, like, Vigilance and Lifelink on your creature tokens makes sense, obviously, with Afterlife. This doubles your Afterlife triggers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she's nice to the ghosts.
She's nice. She let him go. I mean, like, yeah, I guess. I think this card is definitely borderline. I'm not sure if it's worth it in, like, an Aristocrat sort of build. I think it really just depends on what you're doing. If a lot of your stuff does focus on Afterlife, then I think you're more incentivized to include her. But
I mean, but like, it makes Taysa trigger, or not Taysa, it makes Judith trigger twice,
100%.
right? Like, that's close. I think.
Also, if you cast your additional Judith in your hand, it happens 4 times, right? When the Judith you could.
Well, no, it's Judith says other creatures.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah. So it's still just twice.
Okay, fair enough.
Under the old legend rule, then yeah, because they both die, and there you go. I think the issue with this card is it being 4 mana. Like, we have this 4 mana 2/4s. I know this card caused what was the vampire from Rivals, the 4 mana 1/1.
Alendra.
I was gonna say Glen Alendra. I know that was wrong. That caused Alendra to spike a little bit because like when Alendra dies, you get tokens equal to its power. But I think even that card has shown itself to be just not good enough on its own. So I hope that Taste is good enough. I think like this is an interesting idea, and just like we had like Panharmonicon, right? Like Taste makes you pay attention to every card they print that does something when it dies, because those triggers can be huge. So and honestly, thinking right now there could be something that I'm missing already in Standard. But
I mean, like even something as silly as like Hunted Witness. Like,
yeah, I mean it's a thing.
It suddenly being too. Suddenly, them like the soldier being like, "I need backup."
I mean, honestly, like that makes me like. You wonder why Judith says non-token, right? And like Taysa seems to be one of the reasons maybe why.
Yeah.
Obviously, Afterlife is too, but like it's interesting. So I feel like I agree with you. Taysa's borderline, and I would not be surprised to see it see 0 play, and I would not be surprised to see it say probably like a 1 or 2 of in some of those lists, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Especially maybe it's like a mirror breaker too,
maybe
because your tokens having vigilance and lifelink. Like
probably means a lot.
You win the race. You know what I mean? And you just like keep. Again, we talked about in the first half of the cast, we talked about the bad Soul Warden, but I said like that card could see play just because when you're in that situation where that incidental life gain gets you there, Tayson does that. So next up though is one of my favorite movies or movie places. Movie theaters.
The theater of horror.
I mean, I like to see horror movies. I probably wouldn't want to go to the theater though.
Yeah, it looks really burny.
It's a lot of fire.
It's a lot of fire.
Like, I mean, I like bonfires. I don't like the idea that I'd be around that much fire.
I like concerts that have pyrotechnics. I like fireworks, but I'm usually a fair distance away. This one seems like it'd be real close.
They're bringing it to you.
And I don't feel like the Rakdos has a really higher rate for safety professionals.
No. I mean, was it James Hetfield got caught on fire at a Metallica concert? These people are lighting just regular people on fire.
Fire, yeah, you're correct.
Also, you could light James Hetfield on fire again. That's fine. I don't know. I don't want him to like be actually harmed. I just think it'd be funny to see him on fire again. Don't sue me.
Don't sue me, James Hetfield.
So this is a generic black and a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if an opponent lost life this turn, you may play cards exiled with Theater of Horrors, and that has an active ability of 3 generic and a red. It deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So this reminds Morgan and I both of a card that we love, which is Outpost Siege.
Yeah.
And Chandra Pyromaster for me as well. But this is, and we have Experimental Frenzy and Standard too, but this is a little bit different. The cards go in exile, and they sit there until you can deal damage to your opponent. And then you get to play them, which is a huge thing. Outpost Siege was good too because you could play lands off of it. We have Vance's Blasting Cannon also in Standard. That I've tried out that card a number of times. The inability to play lands off of it ruins that card. This is cool though because you can sort of, you can get to stalemates where you're just sort of drawing and drawing. But this, for example, if you just need to hit land drops, you can just ping them and hit land drops. And then you get to cultivate a second hand, and you can just kind of go off. I think this is going to be... I think it's very close to main deckable, but it's definitely a good sideboard card in a lot of matchups.
This, in some ways, does remind me of Bomat Courier.
Yeah, 100%.
In a lot of different ways, because while you didn't get to... You got a second hand. You didn't necessarily get to cultivate it, but you definitely got a second hand. But like, that's what a lot of the aggressive decks can be missing sometimes, and that's kind of what Frenzy kind of does. It allows you to suddenly have this explosion of cards, and I feel like Theater will kind of function in that same way. And I really like this card too, and maybe we're just getting suckered in because we like this effect, but I think this card 100%. This card will see sideboard play somewhere. I don't know if it makes main deck, but sideboard is. I'm a lock on it.
I've already started piecing together. I started doing this the other day. Like we talk about how many burn spells there are. You could piece together a burn deck with this as one of the centerpiece cards. You know what I mean? Where then half of your draws turn on your exiled cards. I think the other play pattern with this card that's also important is it comes out on 3. You can play your 4th land drop, and then if your opponent plays Teferi and wants to tick down, you can take the Teferi with you, and that's super important as a play pattern back and forth, because if it is a Bomat Courier, then just like Bomat Courier, you can get locked into situations where you couldn't leave a mana up, you had to sort of risk it. Here you can, it's like, okay, I'm going to lose these cards that are exiled, which is no real loss. You know what I mean? But I am taking that Planeswalker out,
right,
and that's important. I like that change of wording since they've updated this. This feels like the first set designed with that rule change in mind, where a lot of random things deal damage to Planeswalkers.
Yeah,
as an option. And I think it's important. So,
yeah, I would agree with that. I think like they obviously need to have that more in mind when they are designing sets, because you if you're going to design like powerful planeswalkers like Teferi, you want them to feel somewhat vulnerable.
Yeah, agree. Especially if they're going to do their tick down. If you're going to come in and you're going to tick down. Like
that's an actual cost.
It's rescuing you. Teferi is literally sending something like back in time for you. It should be a cost. I agree. So I like Theater of Horrors is a card that I am down to play many copies of, and a lot of different decks, to be quite honest. So there you go. Next up is Zagana.
So Zagana. Utopian Speaker. 2 generic in a blue and a green for 4/4. It says when Zagana, Utopian Speaker, enters the battlefield, you may, if you control another creature with a +1/+1 encounter on it, draw a card that has Adapt for 4 generic green-blue, and it's Adapt 4. And it says each creature you control with a +1/+1 encounter on it has Trample. So, I mean, the card's fairly straightforward. I don't necessarily think it's breaking the mold or anything like that. It definitely has some good synergies with the Merfolk we already have within, from Ixalan block. But I'm not high on it. I'm not down on it. It just kind of exists.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. This is another card that's very good with Riot. So Teamer creatures, could be a thing. I will say this. This card, we're going back to Nikia that we talked about. Like, if your deck is like 4 Gruul enchantment, like 4 rhythm, and then all creatures in your teamer, right? Then maybe you play Nikia. Maybe this is one of the reasons to play Nikia, so you can easily adapt this. Everything has, you're going to draw a card off of it. It's going to make you able to cast your, or your creatures are going to get trampled. So maybe that's where it's at. I don't know. As long as you're drawing a card off of it, it's always at least solid. Like a 4/4 for 4 that you drew a card off of, and sometimes it's going to have good upside. So it's going to see play. I agree. I'm not as super sold on it as other people have been.
Yeah, it's just like meh.
I should point out that I didn't put Zerta Goblin on here, and I probably should have, just because like Zerta Goblin is like a pretty interesting Rakdos Gruul card, a red and a green for a 2/2 Goblin Berserker. It has Riot, so this is your Watch Wolf. That sometimes just get in with haste. So
yeah,
I think like I don't know what you're doing in the 2-drop slot yet. Like I don't know how if you want to be playing mana guys. Like depends what you're doing. But this is a solid aggressive creature. So that's it for regular gold cards.
Yep. Next up, we don't have any hybrid cards, I think, to talk about. Those are all commons.
We have the split cards that do have hybrid mana, but yeah. Like we said in the first one, they were really careful in both sets with hybrid cards. Nothing sort of pushed the mold. We didn't get any rares, right? Just all commons.
Correct. Yeah. Just all commons, and that's it.
Oh, also once again, Scuttlegator. Simic, stop it.
Just why?
Like Crab, Turtle, Crocodile. I want you, those of you who are big Simic fans and like when they mash things together, you look into the eyes of Scuttlegator. You go right now, you look into the eyes of Scuttlegator, and you tell me that wants to be alive.
you give me that that reassurance. I don't believe you.
You're the kind of person that watched Full Metal Alchemist, and when that guy put his daughter and that dog together, you were like, neat. You didn't immediately go monster, and then you don't try to hide your tears every single time you see a stupid meme about it. You're the guy who's like, yeah, that's cool, chimeras, let's do it. You're awful, and I hope bad things happen where you grow like weird crab limbs. Yeah, that's it.
And see how you like it.
Yeah, you get a scuttle turtle.
They might actually like it.
Yeah. Look what happened to me. Why are you excited about this? I don't need a can opener anymore.
All right, we're entering into the next training portion of our episode.
But that's it.
But yeah, but we're in
The home stretch.
We do have to talk about every single one of these cards, though.
Yeah, I went through and tried to see like which one I could just immediately cut out, and like
There weren't any.
we could have not talked about Bedeck Bedazzle, I think, but
like,
what's the point here? Let's just do it.
Like Bedeck is just a removal spell. Like that's why like this card is relevant. Like you're not playing Bedazzle, but Bedeck you might actually play. But you can have Bedeck, Bedevil, and Bedazzle in all your Rakdos deck, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go into a southern drawl for each one. Just like
Bedeck your creature, and then I bedevil your planeswalker.
Aren't you bedazzled?
Don't you bedazzled by my performance?
So Bedeck is the first half of this hybrid or this split card. Red black hybrid.
Yeah, Rakdos hybrid.
Yeah, target creature gets +3/-3, and this is a pretty consistent Rakdos effect where a creature gets a plus X/-X, and usually it's a removal spell. Augur Spree we had before. Bedazzle then is 4 generic red black for an instant destroy target non-basic land. Bedazzle deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So I think Bedeck is going to be good enough to see play on its own. I don't know, like Bedazzle, they really wanted to make sure that you could kill a Search for Azcanta.
Very much so. They're both instant speed, which I think is important.
Man, Bedazzle eats the hardest counterspell, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Nom.
So, I guess it's cool to have some of these random answers to these cards, but this is the closest one to like being like not a non-entity that we have. Which is sad because it's the Rakdos rare one. It's just I don't know. It's a weird effect. I know that some of the Rakdos cards in the past have interacted with lands, Wrecking Ball being like the most notable.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think just like the first half, I just think like Bedeck is worth it.
It probably is.
And then like you'll get a good story out of Bedazzle one of these
That's
times.
fair. I think one of the reasons, like, if you were saying like I don't know why Bedeck, well, we definitely talked about like there's some more 2-drops that you're going to need to do some minusing on, specifically Adante's
Vanguard. Yeah, like
so.
that's the only reason why I think like this card is like a huge like discussion.
But also the Pontiff that we talked about as well.
Yeah.
The gains indestructible. Like these are things that you want to play. I said like a Moment of Craving or this, but I like this versus Moment of Craving. This can also kill like a Goblin Chain Whirler, which as a person who has sideboarded in those matchups, Moment of Craving gets real awkward when you can't kill a 3/3. So
100%. All right, next is Carnival and Carnage.
The cruise line?
Yes, Carnival Cruise Lines.
Again, why is there so much fire?
Listen, that's all they know.
Like, there's so much fire. I don't get it.
The fire in spikes, and they're just super heavy metal, man.
And Carnage is remaking the end of Misery, so
that's not someone's foot, though, I guess.
And it's similar. Big hammer.
So Carnival is a instant speed for one Rakdos hybrid, and it says Carnival deals 1 damage to target creature and then or planeswalker, and then 1 damage to that permanent's controller. So it's a mini kind of like Searing Blaze.
It's 1 tick up of a Chandra Pyromaster.
Yeah, exactly. And then Carnage is 2 generic black-red for Carnage deals 3 damage to target opponent. Excuse me. That player discards 2 cards. So a Blightning, yeah, more expensive Blightning, but hey. I was actually kind of surprised with Carnival, just with the sheer fact that it's such a cheap way to turn on Spectacle.
Yeah,
and I think like that is what kind of sold me on like seeing it played and like how well it stacks with other things you probably have in that deck, like or how well it just like cleans up things sometimes. So it's surprisingly good. I will say that.
Agree.
And like being able to like play that and also have like a main deck Blightning that you don't feel bad. Also, it seems amazing. So
100%.
I think this card is a lot more powerful. Its overall raw power is still low, but it's still a lot more powerful than people think.
I think it's again, if we're playing the Theater of Horrors burn deck, this goes right in.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next up is Collision Colossus. So Collision is one generic Gruul hybrid. Is an instant collision deals 6 damage to our creature with flying. Then Colossus is a red-green for an instant target creature you control, or target creature gets +4/+2 and trample until end of turn. This is just a really solid card. I think, like, I remember back when we were getting the charms and how upsetting and frustrating Gruul Charm was to some extent. And to see this, to be like, okay, this can just take out a big flyer, but also just a pump spell. I think this is super playable because in the right deck, like, you're fine to have the pump spell. In the right standard format, you know you're going to have targets for your front side of it. But it's also, I think, like, that's the perfect kind of sideboard card for me because Plummet is the kind of card that becomes a sideboard playable card, often. Think about Lyra Dawnbringer or Angel of Grace that we talked about. Here we have something that comes in, but then in those games where they don't have that flyer, you don't have a dead card.
Yeah,
and that's such a huge deal. So I like this card. I don't know if it's main deckable, but it's definitely a sideboardable card that should see play.
I think like you could definitely like. I think the only thing that prevents you from like main decking it is like the other Gruul, like the Gruul rare split card is pretty good as well.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think I like this card just because it feels like a really good, still like a pretty decent like best of one card too. I don't know. So do a lot of these split cards, to be perfectly honest. So.
Yeah, that's definitely no. I'm playing Collision Colossus. Like, I definitely in best of one, and for sure that makes total sense.
Next up, we have Consecrate /
Consume.
Consume. So Consecrate is one Orzhov hybrid. So one generic and Orzhov hybrid for exile target card from a graveyard and draw a card. So this is like
Cremate.
Yeah, that's it. And then we have Consume. It's 2 generic, white and a black. Target player sacrifices a creature they control with greatest power among creatures they control. You gain life equal to its power. So there was this card that you see a lot of play called Crackling Doom. Crackling Doom was a fantastic card, and I'm not saying this card is Crackling Doom by any means.
No, it's a sorcery,
but it doesn't need to be playable because we have this card called Carnage Tyrant, and it's a pain to deal with in a lot of different facets. So this has really good. This is a really good card versus Golgari. Just because both sides are completely relevant. Like, I don't want you to ever bring this back, and I need to kill this Carnage Tyrant. So I think that alone definitely gets people's attention.
It also has game against Eldritch Reborn.
Yeah,
because you can exile the target. So
yeah, that's fantastic. So
I'm excited about this card as a battle box owner because I've had Cremate in the battle box forever, and this just immediately upgrades it.
Just get out of here, Cremate.
So there you go. Next up is Depose. I tried to combine the words. I was Deploys. Depose and Deploy. Depose is one generic Azorius hybrid. Tap target creature, draw a card. And Deploy is 2 generic white-blue instant. Put 2 1/1 Thopter artifact creature tokens in the battlefield with flying. Then you gain 1 life for each creature you control. I love this card. I don't know in standard yet where it goes, but it does seem to fit with Dovin pretty well.
Yeah.
But the front half of this card is a really good tempo card, and so is the second half of this card. Like, just getting 2 flyers, but then gaining incremental life, like, lets you win races. Midnight Haunting saw a ton of play, and this is really close. So I feel like this is really playable.
Yeah, I mean, like, ice is fine. I mean, it's not what ice is permanent, right?
Ice is permanent. Yeah,
so,
you can tap a land and time walk somebody. So
yes, that's fantastic. So this is a little bit less powerful than ice, but still, like, okay, like it's still relevant for standard. And the deploy feels really good. Like basically flash creatures with an upside. Like, sure, I'll take it. So I agree. I like this card in uncommon. I think it's gonna get there somewhere.
Agreed.
Next up, we have Incubation and
Incongruity.
Yeah. So Incubation is look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from them and from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order.
And that costs a hybrid
yes.
of Simic.
Simic hybrid. And Incongruity is 1 green blue. Excuse me, 1 green blue for an instant, and then it's exile target creature. That creature's controller creates a 3/3 green frog, a lizard creature token.
So we
Pondify
get Pondify, hybridization.
Yeah, rapid hybridization.
Rapid hybridization saw play. I think this one is another one that could have gone close to not. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't see play. The first half of it being 1 mana is pretty good because a lot of decks will just play that effect and have played that effect, especially if you're creature heavy. The second side of it, though, it just gives you a nice out to some creatures. You know what I mean? There's so many creatures in this format where you're pretty happy to just do this. You know, I keep mentioning the Angels we talked about, but also like Doom Whisperer would look a lot better as a 3/3 frog lizard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that this card, because we know that the second half has already seen, both halves of this card have seen play. It would not surprise me that this card slots in somewhere. So. The next one is Repudiate and Replicate. Repudiate is 2 Simic hybrid, instant counter target activated or triggered ability. Replicate is 1 green and a blue for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. So we get Stifle.
Yeah,
2 mana Stifle.
Two mana Stifle, but Stifle nonetheless, which has a lot of implications, especially when it feels like a lot of implications on lands, which Stifle most of the time is also countering. So all the lands we talked about that could get destroyed can also get stifled. As Kanta is a little less effective with that. You could just do it again later on, but whatever. Sometimes you just need to stop that one. Replicate. I don't know. Like, it could be fine.
Yeah, this is, if you're talking about bottom 3, it's the 2 Simic ones and then the other Rakdos one.
Yeah.
But I can see its place, and again, like every Stifle of its kind has seen some kind of play. Void Slam saw play, not granted counter spell. Trick Bind saw play. Stifle saw play. So remembering this is in the format is a big deal, and so is Disallow also saw a lot of play. So
yeah, that's true.
We got a lot of powerful Planeswalkers. So
yeah, those are all activated abilities.
We've got a lot of powerful Sagas.
Yeah, those are yeah.
You'd have to convince me that it's worth having this card for it, but it's interesting. So, next up. I know we're speeding through some of these, but a couple of them are. I could just not talk about 3 of them, but might as well mention them. They're not all as good as the other ones. I'm sorry. Sorry, Simic.
Next up is Revival and Revenge. So Revival is Ors of Hybrid. For a sorcery, and it says return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So just a Johnny. It feels like a Johnny tick down.
Yeah, Johnny can do 2
CMC, but
yes.
This is a little bit it's a one-time effect, so it's a little bit more powerful. And then Revenge is 4 generic white-black for a sorcery, and it says double your life total. Target opponent's target opponent loses. Excuse me, I couldn't read that word. Half of their life total rounded up. Half their life rounded up.
So am I crazy? That's a really powerful line of text, right?
Yeah. Like
you double your life. Now, granted, maybe you're at 5 and they're at 5 and it's not. But
now that technically counts as gaining life, right?
Yes.
There you go. I mean, there's some things that care about you gaining life, so
it's true. I don't know. Again, this card will be defined by the front half of it. Like, what are you doing with the front half of it? But man, it's just one of those cards where maybe you want that value, and then sometimes you just gain 15 life and deal 10 to your opponent. That's weird, right?
that's a thing that you can do in this format. Yeah,
you paid 6 mana for that, so here you deal 10 to him. That's 3 bolts, and then you gain 15 life. That's more than 3 healing salves. You're doing fine.
You're up on this exchange, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this one's bad too.
Maybe I think both. I don't think either mode is necessarily bad. They feel niche, but I don't think they feel bad.
Yeah, again, it's defined by what you're bringing back. And again, it being hybrid, you look at the Falcon or the Aristocrat deck. Maybe you want just black, and maybe you're just splashing a little bit of white source just in case.
Yeah, maybe.
The next 2 though are very good.
Yes,
very good. So next we get Thrash and Threat. Thrash is 2 Gruul hybrid for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. And then threat is 2 generic red-green. For a sorcery, create a 4/4 red and green beast creature token with trample. I want to talk about how ridiculous this card really is. Rabid Bite is the common effect that you're seeing on the front half of this. One, the card's not normally an instant. So just like we have like Dramoka's command, when you make fight an instant, when you make one side of fight an instant, then you get like clear shot, right? Which is a very good card. Additionally, this hits planeswalkers.
Yes, it does.
Green doesn't get to do that.
Not
Red
typically.
barely gets to do that.
That's true.
That's crazy to me. And the second half of this is, it reminds me a lot of when you had Gorklan Rampager. Sometimes you just need to cast Gorklan Rampager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just make a 4/4 token. But I think the front half of this is so powerful. Like, you can hit planeswalkers with this.
And it's a speed.
Yeah, like that is buck wild to me.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I know this card's very good.
I've already had the pleasure of casting a couple of them.
Nice. When they thrash, they thrash.
Oh, for sure. And like, threat is like maybe like the less exciting portion of this card, but sometimes you just you just need a threat.
You just make a 4/4. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it is. Like, a 4/4 is a legitimate body. So,
and in honesty, like the next card that we've talked about kind of has a similar effect.
100%.
But let's move on to that. So it's Warrant and Warden. Warrant is Azorius Hybrid, and it says put target attacking creature or blocking creature on top of its owner's library. So this is a Azorius Charm sort of effect, and that effect has always been pretty good. Instant speed is fine. I do enjoy the image of like Lavinia having like Azorius knuckle dusters. Like, that's terrifying.
It's pretty great.
And then we have Warden, which is 3 white blue for a sorcery. And it says create a 4/4 white and blue Sphinx creature token with flying and vigilance. Like, yes,
you just get Sarah Angel.
Right. Like, that's fine. Like, who doesn't like a good Sarah Angel?
Yeah, if you did not play Standard during the original Return to Ravnica block, then you have not had the pleasure of having your creature Azorius Charmed over and over again.
It's miserable.
And Warrant is just that. It just is. Sometimes the Azorius Charm just drew a card. I guess it gave lifelink every now and then.
There were like times when it was relevant.
But its goal was to ruin your top deck. And it cannot overstate how powerful that is. I also want to point out that when you're talking about like Jeskai, right? When you combine this with what was the red the is it one Expansion Explosion?
Yeah.
How about I just copy this? You can copy it on the stack, because on the stack Warrant is just a 2-mana spell, so you can copy it. And I'm gonna put 2 creatures on top of your library.
You're welcome.
That sounds horrible, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen to you, unless of course you have Gruul Spell Shapers, in which case, give them the bird.
It's spell breakers, but
what I don't care what it is. They have fingers flying.
2 big ones right at you.
But again, like, for the control decks that want this effect, sometimes you also just go, all right, I need to turn the corner now, or I need to present a threat now. Here's a 4/4.
Yeah, here's their Angel.
So
they're easy to deal with.
And again, vigilance is a big deal for the control deck, because like
you want to present a threat and still be able to block if you need to.
So that's why Kaya is around to get rid of all the tokens.
Yeah, clearly, just all of them.
But yeah, so that was it.
Yeah,
we did it.
I'm very sleepy. We may not be like releasing these back to back, but we recorded them back to back, and
sure. And I'm gonna leave here and go play in a midnight pre-release because I'm not smart.
I'm not gonna agree with that sentiment, but
I appreciate it. You're a good friend.
Yeah.
You want to come play?
No, I'm gonna go home.
Morgan's smart.
I will agree with that sentiment.
But we're supposed to go all the snow tomorrow, and I've got to
true.
get my brakes checked on my car. So my window is to go tonight, and then go drop my car off at the shop and just sleep on my couch for 12 hours.
There you go.
And hibernate like a large bear.
That doesn't sound like a bad existence.
No, and you'd think, like, don't you mean like a small bear? You haven't seen me. A large bear.
a decently sized bear. But I think overall, Ravnica Allegiance felt like more of the same, with guilds of Ravnica, and that isn't a bad thing.
No, it is not.
And I think that there's a lot of cool cards that introduce a lot of new archetype. They can potentially introduce new archetypes to the format, and we have all like complete mana bases, and I think that excites a lot of people. It will push people to try to build fun and interesting things.
Yeah, if it's anything like last time, things can get kind of crazy. Like last time we had these kind of mana bases, it might get crazy, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's what you want from a standard.
Agreed.
I'm super glad that Indy is going to be standard.
I also agreed. I don't think I get to go, unfortunately.
Nah, I definitely won't be going. I don't own standard cards, so it's really hard to play paper standard when you don't own anything.
That's true.
But I'm excited to watch it. Like that's the best part is that you get to watch it,
Yeah.
and so I'll be excited to catch that and talk about it when we get around to being able to do that. And then I just think like. I think like we are returning to a good standard, and I hope it progresses. I hope it continues. So I'm glad to see that we didn't like immediately misstep in this set.
Right.
But that's going to be our set review for this. That's going to be our
Palooza.
There you go.
I totally missed it. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's going to be it for this season. Again, if you want to reach out to us, you have multiple different ways. So we have Twitter. It's your Endstep. When you add us, it's at your Endstep. We also have an email address at yourendstep@gmail.com. We also have Facebook, facebook.com/@yourendstep. We also want to give a quick shout out to our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. Definitely check them out at Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. Do a quick search for them or worldofcomictown.com. Also want to give another shout out to again our one of our new premium hosts in Legit MTG. Check out some of the articles they have on there. And if you are a member of our Patreon, thank you so much for supporting the show. You can definitely find out more about our Patreon by visiting patreon.com/@yourendstep. But thank you everyone for listening to these very long episodes. We will be back next time with a more traditional episode about your Endstep. And you have a great one. Bye.